McLaren, of course, synonymous with success in Formula One, but also rather successful in sports car racing as well. Of course, in the Can-Am days with the glorious orange M8s, Bruce McLaren, Denny Hulme set a standard that was unmatched in sports car racing for McLaren. And of course, McLaren won Le Mans on its debut with the F1 in 1995. They built a new car, the fabulous MP4-12C, which you will have seen on the McLaren stand over there. Let's hear now from the boss, Martin Whitmarsh, and the man who's going to be running the car in GT3 racing very soon, Andrew Kirkaldy. That video, Martin, evoked wonderful memories of McLaren's last foray in sports car racing. You're back with a fantastic road car, and you're going to race it. Just talk us through the thoughts behind that.
Well, I think anyone who's looked at the road car, and certainly under the skin, it was intended always to be a road car, but it really looks like a race car. So it's inevitable we were going to go and race. As a business, we had to decide when, but we also knew that if we didn't race it, someone else was going to. So, you know, we're a racing company. Getting excited about going racing in GT is very easy for us. And in fact, what we're going to try and do is keep our discipline. That's why we've signed up with CRS and Andrew here to really run the program, so that some of us don't get too enthusiastic, too involved in it, and we concentrate on some of the other things that we're trying to do as a business.
McLaren has moved in recent months to really promote its ambitions in road car manufacturer. Over the next few years, we're going to see a lot of new production cars coming out of Woking, aren't we?
Absolutely. I mean, 12C's had a fantastic reception. A lot of people have shown great interest, a lot of orders taken, and you know, we're starting to build those now, and that's a very exciting time. But the ambition of McLaren is to be more than a Formula One team. Of course, you know, Formula One is what we're passionate about. We want to win in Formula One, but we've decided that we're going to be a road car company that needs a range of cars. 12C is just the start of that, and over the coming 3 or 4 years, there's going to be a rollout of a range of products that are going to be sold through dealerships around the world.
And I think you proved with the F1 back in 1993, when it first came out, that you took it very seriously and you created the ultimate supercar. And in many respects, it remains unbeaten.
No, absolutely. I mean, those of us who were involved in that project, you can't help but be passionate about it. It was a very light, a very small car, a very easy car to handle, and you know, its performance was phenomenal. Now people have come along with a lot more horsepower since to try and beat the records that were set by that fantastic car, but it is still iconic. It still looks great as well, you know, considering, you know, I can remember 20 years ago looking at the styling models, and you know, Gordon and Pete Stevens I think did a fantastic job, because even now when you see the car, and there's a Le Mans version not sat too far from us now, it still looks fresh, it still looks beautiful.
Andrew, fantastic privilege for CRS to be in partnership with McLaren. How did the relationship come about?
Well, it is a great privilege for us. You know, as CRS, we've basically started off life as a race team, and I think we've shown to the motorsport world that we do it at a very high level. We had Chris Goodwin was the first person to actually introduce ourselves to McLaren, and Martin came up, had a look around, and we started dialogue about the possibility of developing a car, and fairly quickly came to an agreement that we could do something. And as you say, it's fantastic for us, and you know, when you watch that video, there's just a little bit of pressure.
Absolutely right, yeah. How many cars will be built and will be run, and what sort of timescales are we talking?
Well, we're looking to build 15 cars. We're looking to build over the period of the project about 40 cars. We're looking this year to do a few races, and then towards the end of 2011 deliver the first cars for the 2012 season.
Martin, will the cars come out of McLaren in Woking and be delivered to CRS to be turned into race cars, or will you make the finished product and CRS will run it?
No, it really, we're working with CRS. I mean, I think the relationship with Andrew actually goes back further than this. He is a former McLaren Autosport young driver, as many people will remember. He had his debut in a McLaren the same day as one Jenson Button. Like most racing drivers, he tells me he had the worst of the day, but every racing driver has the worst of the day, the worst of the conditions. But I think, no, just to say some words, I mean, we try and we're very proud of the support that we give the McLaren Autosport Award winners, and we try and stay in some contact. And I think to reacquaint ourselves with Andrew, to go to CRS, see how professionally they run their organisation, gave me the feeling that they were ready to try and step up to the next level in their business. We're working together. The engineering specification of the car is very much controlled by McLaren. It's our product. We're providing a lot of the components, but the cars are being built within CRS. But the overall engineering authority remains with us. If you're buying a GT3 version, you'll be buying it from McLaren. You'll give us the order, and Andrew and his team will support you.
Why not do it in-house, like you did with the F1?
I think two reasons. One is we've got a lot on. We want to win this year's World Championship. That's not an easy task. We're launching a road car business. We're building a business. We've got a whole range of other activities within the McLaren Group. So I think it's we're passionate about going motor racing. It's very easy for these things to become very distracting. And I think also, whilst we have raced in GT and we've had some notable success, I think it would be arrogant of us to believe we understood the market. And, I think Andrew and his team have been active recently. They know how the GT market works. We've got to recognise that this is an equivalence formula. So, the natural racing instinct that we have within racing has got to be tempered by the fact that the cars are going to have some control over their performance. That goes against how we normally go motor racing. And we have no experience of that and no knowledge of it. So I think it's always right to find good, strong partners, and I think we found such a partner in CRS, and that's why we're very happy with the relationship. Hopefully, I told Andrew on day one that we'd be a very tough partner for them to work with. Hopefully, he's enjoyed some of it. I'm sure he hasn't enjoyed all of it, but we're enjoying it, and I think it's there's a lot of excitement, hopefully within CRS, but also within McLaren, to waiting to go racing in the near future.
Andrew, we've seen what the GT3 MP4-12C might look like with artists' impressions. When can we see the real car for the first time?
Well, the car will run fairly soon. The exact time frame is not set as yet, but we hope to have a car running very early this year. We also have a tentative race program, which we haven't announced as yet either. I mean, with all these things, new car development, we need to make sure that the car's out there and performing as we want it to be, and then we'll release to the public what we intend to do with the car.
He's being very cautious, actually. He will have the car running at the beginning of March.
He's slightly nervous, Martin.
You've got to be careful not to say the wrong thing.
Just explain briefly where GT3 sits in the sort of plethora of sports car disciplines, because there are quite a few and they're quite complicated.
Yeah, I mean, GT3 was something that was kind of dreamed up by Stefan Rattel and the SRO to come up with a car that was a cheap car to build, a cheap car to run. I think with all these things, with all these formulas, it starts to develop and starts to get a little bit away from themselves. And actually, a GT3 car now is a very complex car. I mean, it's an extremely quick car, and in a lot of cases, the GT3 version of a car is quicker than, say, the GT2 version, which starts to become confusing for the people watching the races, as you say. Yeah,
don't forget it's a McLaren, so cheap is a relative term. Yeah, it won't be cheap, will it, in anyone's book?
I think the one thing to say about the GT3 car, when we all sat round the table and discussed the GT3 car, I wouldn't say that it'll be certainly the cheapest car to buy, but we are in our mind out there trying to create a car that will be sensible to run. I mean, at the end of the day, we want everybody who gets involved with a McLaren GT3 car to have the best car on the grid, not only from a performance perspective, but from customer service, from cost of running, cost of ownership. So, we've really had that in mind, and I'd like to think that it will be the best car on the grid, and it will be, we'll have the best service and the best car from a value perspective.
If a private individual or organisation came to you and said, I want to start a team, I want to run a McLaren MP4-12C, would you be able to accommodate them? And how many checks would they have to rip out of the book?
Well, it's It's been very interesting. I mean, we launched the program. We put a website up there with an opportunity for people to register interest, and the interest's been huge. I mean, we've had a lot more interest than even I imagined we would have. So the reality is, no, we won't be able to help everybody who wants one straight away. We will only build 15 cars, so beyond that, we'll have to look at cars next year and the year after. But we have a massive amount of interest. We have to decide now what championships the car will be in, and it is a nice position to be in, to have more customers than we have cars.
Martin, if this is a successful partnership, can we expect to see further McLaren sports cars, be they GT3 or perhaps even prototypes?
Well, in fact, regardless of the success of this partnership, and I'm sure it will be very successful, we will race, and there will be GT2s, there will be GT4s, there will be GT Endurance. The nature of the cars that we're developing, not just 12C, they are very much race bred. They incorporate the approach, the technology that we have in our Formula One cars. So they're ideally suited to going motor racing, and it's about what our brand is, what our passion is. So this is the first of the new era of GT racing, and I hope, and I believe, incidentally, that we're going to have a good and a long-term successful partnership with CRS, not just in GT3, but in lots of other GT categories.